The final item of business today is the members' business debate on motion number 5944 in the name of Hanzala Malik on challenging negative racial and religious stereotypes. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put, and I would be grateful if those members who wish to participate in the debate could please press the request to speak buttons now. I call on Hanzala Malik to open the debate. 7 minutes, please, Mr. Malik.
Good afternoon, Presiding Officer. I was very happy when my motion was selected for today's debate, as I have been wanting an opportunity to discuss how we in Scotland deal with challenging negative racial and religious stereotyping. Firstly, I would like to congratulate Amna Muslim Women Resource Centre on the I Speak for Myself campaign. This campaign was created in order to encourage Muslim women to share messages with fellow Scots about anything they felt important. Over 400 Scottish Muslim women had participated in signing and sending of messages as part of the campaign. The campaign came out of the work that Amna did in 2011, visiting some 25 secondary schools in Scotland, and were shocked that 70% of young people had associated words such as terrorism, uneducated, foreign, and oppressed with Muslim women. The travelling exhibition encouraged dialogue and promoted understanding of the misunderstood community and faith. And I am pleased to say that 55 members of Scottish Parliament and 3 ministers have pledged their support to standing up against intolerance and prejudice, speaking out against discrimination, and contributing to make a fairer Scotland. The funding of work in schools is only from Glasgow City Council and Dundee. When Amna gets requests from schools wishing to engage out with these areas, it is not really possible to accommodate these requests. So I hope and suggest that other councils, if wanting to take part in this, should contact Amna to try and see if they can resolve this issue for them. Since the campaign began, there has been a shift in the community, and with the murder of Lee Ridgeby in Warridge, there has been a greater need than ever to try and promote understanding between communities. In my opinion, the best way to do this is by speaking to people from different communities and letting them speak for themselves, as this campaign has tried to do. When discussions in schools took place, it was amazing that Amna's research found that working and trying to combat negative stereotyping, I was surprised to learn that little was brought up by the students in the normal classes which took place. However, when it came to religious education classes, they were more open about their views and were willing to participate and share their views with the rest of the class, which would suggest that there was still a lot of work to be done even within our young. I want to move on to my next point. Why are we dealing with stereotyping of Muslim women separately from other forms of discrimination? I would like to see that work of Amna are done in a framework where all organizations work together in this area. On paper, organizations are meant to work across equality strands, but for some reason, we are not doing that in particular. And also, when it comes to dealing with bigotry, for example, we tend to be dealing with that separately. I don't understand why we do that. And particularly when it comes to football, for example, that again is a special case. Once again, I ask the question, why? Is it that they are not all working together? I think that's important, that we appreciate that all forms of discrimination are equally unwelcome. I believe that the work challenging stereotyping, where there are race sections, where there is racism, sectarianism, where there are redheads, should it be whatever kind of prejudiced. One of the main issues here is we need to have benchmarking in progressing this work so that there is clearer vision of our direction and how we are, whether we are in fact improving on our lot, if one can use that phrase. We need to start with the foundation that we are all human beings and we are all different in many ways. I heard somewhere or I read somewhere, we are unique just like everyone else. And that is that our young need first to understand, then individual organizations can bring separate skills together to assist one another. The issue that's now is that there are many organizations which have marvelous skills, but unfortunately because they work in their own isolation, those skills are not transferable to other organizations, and as a result, we don't benefit from them. So my plea today is, one, I congratulate Amina for doing such a marvelous job working among the minority communities, in particular our women, who are challenging real issues, bringing up young families, facing up to the most difficult challenges of all, not only in the house, but also in the workplace. And I think that we need to congratulate the fact that they've brought to our attention the difficulties that are being faced at the very young, amongst our young. And also, I would like to make a plea here today that we, as a Scottish Parliament, take all measures to try and assist our communities who are vulnerable today so that we can work together, be a fairer and a clearer nation so we can all benefit equally. Thank you.
Many thanks. Now turn to the open part of the debate. Speeches of 4 minutes, please. And I'm going to call Malcolm Chisholm first because he has indicated as a courtesy to the Chamber that he has to leave early for other parliamentary business. Malcolm Chisholm, to be followed by Dennis Robertson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I've apologised to the Minister. Can I repeat my apologies to you and indeed to Hansel Malik, because I have to leave to chair the cross-party group on cancer, which starts soon. I'd like to congratulate Hansel Malik for bringing forward what is a very important motion, and also congratulate Amina Muslim Women's Resource Centre for all the great work they've done, I know, over a period of several years, but in the context of this debate, congratulate them for their campaign, I Speak for Myself. No doubt other members have looked into this and seen the film that's available online, and I certainly hope that as many people as possible will watch that film and promote it so that other people become aware of it. I think their campaign was always important for the reasons that Hansel Malik has given, but I think we would also agree that it is particularly timely after the appalling crime in Woolwich. As we all know, people of all religions and none commit crimes, but a particular crime can never be an excuse for turning on a community, an innocent community who happen to share the criminal's religion. And this, unfortunately, has happened over the last few weeks. I was at a community workshop in my constituency 2 weeks ago, and it's a great group, by the way, who are working to promote race equality and integration in North Edinburgh. But it was very sad to hear one of the Muslim women at that meeting say that she'd lived in her community in North Edinburgh for 6 years and never until the week before had she ever actually been harassed, and she described a very terrifying incident when she was on her bicycle. So we have to face facts. There has been a recent rise in racism and Islamophobia, and the prejudice and stereotyping that we know exists has been exacerbated. So we have to address that problem, and certainly this great campaign from Amina Muslim Women's Resource Centre can help us to do that, because I think what we need to do is to listen to individual Muslim women and men, and obviously as much as possible relate to them, and that's what the message of integration is about, so that we actually live together in harmony and break down the barriers and the prejudices and the stereotypes that get in the way of our living in harmony. Now, in a kind of way, I've been reminded of what happened back in 2005. We remember the London bombings, and in the wake of that, there was the same kind of increase in racism and Islamophobia. And it also reminded me of a group in my own constituency. I hope Hans Malik won't mind me mentioning this, but they, in the wake of that, produced a booklet which I've got here called Pride and Prejudice Beyond the Veil. But I was reminded of that because to some extent the women who did that, they were called the Pakiza Women's Group, were trying to do the same kind of thing that the Amina Women's Resource Centre women are trying to do now. They were trying to say to others, this is who I am, this is the kind of person I am. See beyond the fact that I may or may not wear a veil, see beyond the stereotyping and the prejudices that are so common in society and in the media. This is who I am. I'm a human being, I have these interests, I'm just like you in very many ways. Although they were also saying in this booklet, as in the Amina campaign, I do have a particular religion. I want you to know about this religion because, of course, a lot of the prejudice and stereotyping is about the Islamic faith, and that is misrepresented and associated with violence and so on, which is totally inappropriate. So let's listen to these women. I hope the media will also listen because a lot of responsibility rests on them for reporting these things in very unhelpful and derogatory and prejudiced ways, and we should all work together to challenge the myths and the stereotypes, to bring about a society where we can live in harmony. And I hope we can more and more do it at community level, as I'm pleased to say is happening in my own constituency.
Thank you very much. I now call Dennis Robertson to be followed by Anne McTaggart.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And I too will congratulate Hans Malik for bringing this debate to the Chamber. Presiding Officer, I've always found it difficult to understand prejudice. The reason being that I've been blessed with having Nigerian cousins since I was the age of about 6, which was over 50 years ago. And I've also got Mauritian cousins. And as I say, I've always found it difficult to understand this whole concept around prejudice. And when Hans Malik was bringing this to the Chamber, I suddenly had a flashback. It was a memory that came back to me that when I was at school here in Edinburgh. And the reason I want to share this memory with you is that it was a young lad who was 13, 14 at the time, ages with myself. And he was born totally blind, without eyes. So therefore, he had no concept of colour, but yet he had a prejudice towards black people. Now, I couldn't understand that. I found it very difficult to understand. And I remember engaging with him, the discussion, and he says, oh, no, I just don't like black people. But I was trying to explain to him, but you don't know what black is. You have no idea. You have no concept of colour. You have no concept of night and day. You have no concept of light or dark. But yet, he was convinced he had this, it was nigh on hatred to some extent of people of black and ethnic minority. And at that time, probably we didn't speak about ethnic minorities, we just spoke about black people at that time. And it was because his parents were prejudiced. And this is where he learned to be prejudiced against other people. People he'd never met, people he had no idea that he was passing in the street of their colour or ethnicity. So this is why I particularly find it difficult to understand why we have so much prejudice remaining. Because when we pass people in the street, we have no idea, and certainly I don't, of people's faith. I have no idea that if a person was born in this country or not. And I find it quite disturbing that 28% of the population, when they're surveyed, said that, yes, prejudice is right. Yes, they deserve. 28% are still saying that, 28% are saying, yes, it's right to have a prejudice against certain people within our communities. 31% believe that people from ethnic backgrounds are taking our jobs. I can't understand that either. Our jobs? Whose jobs? Presiding Officer, as I said to start with, prejudice is something I find difficult to understand. And as a former member of the Equal Opportunities Committee, we dealt a lot with the Human Rights Commission. And I remember when we were doing the Equal Opportunities report on the Gypsy travelling community, and it was the Scottish Human Rights Commission said that within the Gypsy travelling community, it's the last bastion of self-respected prejudice and racism. And again, the percentage of people from other ethnic minority groups are also prejudiced towards the Gypsy travelling community. Again, something I find, because people don't understand something, they have a prejudice towards it. And I think this is something, I think Hamzala Malik is absolutely right, and others are absolutely right, that it's about education and awareness. And Malcolm Chisholm, when he's summing up, said the media have a responsibility. They certainly do. Because sometimes the way the media portray racism and prejudice is to incite more. I think they should have a responsibility to raise awareness rather to incite. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you very much. I now call Anne McTaggart to be followed by Annabel Goldie.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm delighted to contribute to this important debate on challenging negative racial and religious stereotypes, and also to add my congratulations to Amina Muslims Women Resource Centre and welcome some of them to the Chamber this evening, and also to one of the directors, Fatine, who's also here as well. We're here tonight really to talk about the launch of the I Speak for Myself campaign and how successful that was. But in doing that, I'm aware I should mention and thank my colleague Hamzala Malik for securing the time in Chamber to talk about the important issues that had arisen from this campaign and to highlight some of the excellent work being carried out in the region of Glasgow. Amina's I Speak for Myself campaign is just one of many examples of what is great about the third sector in Scotland. Amina's Muslim Women's Resource Centre visited Scottish secondary schools to discuss Islam with pupils, and they recognised a problem. A staggering 70% of the pupils they spoke to with associated incredibly false and negative ideas with Muslim women. Amina identified this problem and immediately went about fixing it. Their campaign to challenge misconceptions about Muslim women by actively getting out and speaking to Muslim women about their experiences, their identity and their personal beliefs is one we can all be proud of. Nil by Mouth is another excellent example of a charity that is working hard to challenge negative and religious stereotypes. On a budget of only £60,000, Nil by Mouth delivered workshops to over 5,000 people last year in my own region of Glasgow. Nil by Mouth have been working with one of my local schools, Girskadden Primary School and St Brendan's Primary School, over the last few years. Their projects have allowed the pupils to learn more, not just about their other faiths and cultures, but also about their own. The vast majority of pupils enter into such projects with great interest and enthusiasm. I believe that this could be the generation which beats bigotry once and for all. The work done by organisations such as Nil by Mouth and Amina and many others are incredibly important and must be adequately funded. But they only work when they are matched with the education policy and far-reaching initiatives that get to the heart of the problem: intolerance. To engender real change in our communities, integrated approaches are essential. I trust that the Scottish Government agree with me and will use the cross-party support of these campaigns as a springboard to real overview of the incredible work being done by the charitable sector.
Thank you. I now call Annabel Goldie to be followed by Mary Fee.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Can I too thank and congratulate Hamzala Malik for bringing this motion before the Parliament for debate. I know that before coming to this Parliament, Hamzala Malik already played an important role as an advocate for the Muslim community as a Glasgow City Councillor for 17 years, Indeed, it was my pleasure many years ago to encounter him in that capacity when we were members of the Court of the University of Strathclyde, to which he made a distinguished contribution. And we brought our different backgrounds and our different experiences to that forum. But in bringing this debate to the Parliament, I think he has achieved two important things. Firstly, and quite rightly, he highlights the imagination and the innovation of Amina Muslim Women's Resources Centre in Glasgow in devising and launching the I Speak for Myself campaign, which is deserving of praise in its own right. And secondly, the carefully drafted script of his motion lifts the veil on the vulnerability, the apprehension, the isolation felt by many within the Muslim community, all of which can be intensified by external events. And as a Parliament, we should be very concerned if that community suffers from misconceptions about and endures discrimination towards Muslim women and the Islamic faith. That is utterly unacceptable. And it is important that this Parliament, both as an institution and through its proceedings and debates, condemns such activity and plays its part in educating, dispelling the myths and promoting awareness of such issues to eliminate these negative attitudes. In their own way, I think Show Racism the Red Card and Nil by Mouth have been very effective vehicles in maintaining awareness, keeping these issues to the forefront of discussion and guarding against the enemy of complacency. I noted with interest the suggestion in the motion of a more integrated and systematic approach to tackling problems of negative stereotypes and discrimination. There may indeed be scope for that, but I think there is also strength in numbers, and I would not like to see the identities of these two campaigns and this new one, I Speak for Myself, blurred. I think all three have something very important to say. Broadening the debate out to consider what positive options are available to help in the work of these campaigns. I can think of no better model, Deputy Presiding Officer, than the annual Pakistan Welfare Trust dinner. Like others in the Chamber, I have had the pleasure of attending this dinner over many years. It is a highlight in the calendar for the Muslim community, but it has developed a very positive reputation with the many guests from Politics and Civic Scotland. In my opinion, it has played a very important role in broadening awareness and understanding and nurturing solid and positive relationships. It is also an immensely enjoyable social occasion. But this year, I thought the dinner was outstanding. It took place against the backdrop of the appalling murder of Lee Rigby in Woolwich, to which Malcolm Chisholm referred. But that tragedy served to demonstrate at the dinner how, from our different backgrounds and from our different cultures, we stand united in condemning what is wrong and is bad, and also united in supporting what is good and what is right. And that unity of purpose was explicit in the apposite reading from the Quran that evening and in the many speeches made at the dinner. There was a power for good that evening, tangible to all who were present, born out of mutual respect, and quite simply, over the years, born out of getting to know one another. I hope these strengths will imbue and encourage both the existing campaigns and this new campaign, I Speak for Myself, and I wish it every success.
Thank you very much. And finally, Mary Fee.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And can I start off by congratulating my friend and colleague Hanzala Malik for securing this members' debate on an issue that has an effect on many individuals within the black and ethnic minority community, not only here in Scotland but across the globe. It would be naive of any member to suggest that Scotland is a haven for racial equality and that the campaigns implemented by the current and the previous administrations has tackled stereotypes and negative attitudes towards race and religion. As we all know, there's still a long way to go. The debated motion pays specific reference to the campaign I Speak for Myself, a very emotive campaign put forward to the public in a very simple way. The campaign uses real people and real-life examples to help show that Muslim women are just like any other member of society, and that they drink iron brew and are interested in their local football club. Campaigns such as this help bring about community cohesion and continue to show that Scotland is a welcoming and inclusive nation for anyone who wishes to come here. Every member within this chamber, as well as individuals across the UK and around the world, are aware of the death of drummer Lee Rigby. and this has led to an increased presence by far-right groups to paint a single religion as the perpetrators of this atrocity. And these groups have used a single event caused by two individuals who just happen to be from a certain religion, and then they've used it to help fuel tensions and reinforce negative attitudes and stereotypes. Leaders of various faith groups rightly stood side by side to declare that this was an attack by two people, not an attack by a religion. And this solidarity of support is a beacon of hope and unity, one which was recognised by the majority of the population across the UK. This having been said, there has unfortunately been an increase in the number of Islamophobic incidents. Attacks and crimes of any kind are terrible, but those that are motivated by malice or ill will towards a specific group in society due to someone's religion and beliefs are downright despicable. I commend the work undertaken by various groups, such as the Amina Women's Resource Centre. Their campaign, I Speak for Myself, has really enabled them to help raise awareness of discrimination and issues that the Muslim community are facing. And I wholeheartedly support the idea of an integrated and systematic approach to tackling the issue of negative stereotypes and discrimination. With more organisations collaborating together, they will be able to reach various societal groups, bringing their message to various parts of the country. And in doing this, they will help pave the way for a more equal, respectful and tolerant Scotland. And as Dennis Robertson has previously mentioned, the Equal Opportunities Committee has completed 2 inquiries into Gypsy travellers in the last year and a half. And one of the key messages that stemmed from both reports is that Gypsy travellers, as an ethnic group, are very often stereotyped and discriminated against, often as a result of media coverage. We found evidence of newspapers encouraging the NIMBY attitude to Gypsy travellers and TV programmes portraying them in a bad manner, leading to the promotion of stereotypical Gypsy travellers. And finally, Presiding Officer, I'd just like to take the chance to sum up my feelings on the motion and debate by quoting former UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan. "Ignorance and prejudice are the handmaidens of propaganda. Our mission, therefore, is to confront ignorance with knowledge, bigotry with tolerance, and isolation with the outstretched hand of generosity. Racism can, will, and must be defeated." And with that, Deputy Presiding Officer, I gladly lend my support to this motion.
Thank you very much. Can I now invite Rosanna Cunningham to respond to the debate? Minister, you have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I first of all congratulate Hanzala Malik on securing this members' business debate at this time and thank the members who participated in discussing this important matter. It is important because there should be no place in Scotland for any form of racial or religious intolerance and discrimination at any time, at any place, in any community. And as a government, we deplore any attempt to exploit drummer Rigby's death and reaffirm the message that Scotland is a country where people of all faiths and none are welcome and can live in peace. Now, Police Scotland do report that recent events have led to a slight increase in hate crime reporting in Scotland. Part of that, of course, is due to the excellent relationship between Police Scotland and local communities. Because we're having this debate against the wider background of that brutal killing, it is right that people flag up and recognise the attempts by a small minority of people to exploit his death for their own divisive purposes. The reports of that the police are talking about, the increase that we've seen, have, however, resulted in robust enforcement action being taken in each case. And that's an important point of confidence for communities suffering any form of harassment or discrimination, that their complaints will be taken seriously and acted upon. And as Police Scotland will always respond promptly to such reports, I do encourage members of the public to report every instance of hate crime to the police as soon as possible. And I hope members here who, like Malcolm Chisholm or Mary Fee or Anne McTaggart, who've become aware of incidents of harassment or other attacks in their own communities, do encourage individuals to report those incidents to the police. It does regrettably mean that our hate crime statistics may look like they're going up, but often it's not the actual incidents that are increasing, it's the confidence in reporting that's increasing, and that is extremely important. People need to feel that they can do that and be listened to.
Minister,
and I believe that.
sorry to interrupt, could you check your microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. People not hearing me.
Many thanks.
It's not very often that people say they can't hear me, presiding officer. So I do encourage people to report these incidents to the police. I'd also like to congratulate the Amina Muslim Women's Resource Centre on the I Speak for Myself campaign. This national campaign aims to encourage and inspire Muslim women by spreading knowledge of women's rights and promoting positive images of Muslim women. And has been stated by many members, this campaign seeks to empower Muslim women to share their own personal messages with their fellow Scots so that damaging stereotypes can be challenged. And in that regard, can I say that, you know, we have 2 male Muslim MSPs in this Parliament, and I personally look forward to our first Muslim woman MSP. Perhaps she's sitting in the gallery this evening. I'm sure Annabel Goldie, Mary Fee and Anne McTaggart would all join me in expressing that wish. To echo the campaign pledge, we want Scotland to be a place where all people can flourish and be themselves and be free from being judged and labelled because of issues like their race and their faith or their personal background. As a government, we value Scotland's ethnic minority communities, the contribution they make, the important role they play in making Scotland the diverse and vibrant country we are today. And so far since 2012, we've committed nearly £6 million to support specific projects and initiatives in combating racist and religious bigotry and hatred. And that does include work with Gypsies and Traveller community, the Roma community, asylum seekers and refugees, as well as those groups that one might expect to see in that list. We've also developed our One Scotland campaign through a variety of media and are now disseminating a One Scotland toolkit to enable local areas to develop their own anti-racism campaigns. Now, this may go some way towards the skill sharing that Hanzala Malik wishes to see. Officials are also currently working on updating the Race Equality Statement, which will underpin the themes of prevention and early intervention and will consider issues such as race equality and employment, poverty and hate crime, which is expected to be published later this year. And if I could turn round now to faith equality, because often what we see is a combination of 2 issues here, both faith and race coming together. Now, you know, with Muslims, that's not the first time this has happened in Scotland, as people in Scotland will know that faith and race issue or faith and ethnic minority issue has come together before historically and often led to quite a disfiguring in some of our communities. We want to prevent that happening to another community in the future. So I think it's important that we continue to restate that the diverse faith and belief communities are valued in and for themselves as well, and the important role they play in enriching us as a country. So there's no place in Scotland for any form of religious hatred or intolerance, any more than there is for that based on race. And we will not tolerate any form of religious prejudice. A total of £768,000 has been allocated to faith projects, and that's specifically faith projects to tackle racism and religious intolerance for the period of this 3-year spending review, as well as £360,000 to Interfaith Scotland, which I was actually visiting this morning in Glasgow. And Interfaith Scotland is a place where all faith communities can come together and discuss and share issues and concerns. So I was interested in Anne McTaggart's reference to the work done in her local area. I visited the schools that she's talking about, and I agree with her as to the inspiring nature of the work done by young people there. And I'm trying to remember the name of the little play that the very little kids do based on the rainbow fish. It's well worth watching and seeing just how much they enjoy that, but how much they're learning from that. There's been announcements being made about funding. There will, of course, be more announcements. As a government, we do have very good relations with Scotland's faith communities, including, of course, the Muslim community. And we meet, ministers and officials meet with faith leaders and faith groups on a very regular basis, including in recent weeks, for very good reasons. In the post-Woolwich scenario, both the First Minister and the Cabinet Secretary have been to visit mosques and offer some support and reassurance in the aftermath of that terrible event. I also believe that the Cabinet Secretary this morning was actually visiting the Dundee International Women's Centre. While I was in Glasgow meeting with Interfaith Scotland, he was in Dundee meeting the International Women's Centre people. So, in conclusion, can I thank all who've participated in this debate this afternoon, including Dennis Robertson, who brings his own unique perspective to debates like this from the point of view of being unable physically to see what all of these differences are supposed to be about. And that's always a very good reminder for us. And can I join you all in congratulating the Amina Muslim Women's Resource Centre on the I Speak for Myself campaign. Thank you.
Many thanks, Minister. That concludes Hanzala Malik's debate challenging negative racial and religious stereotypes. And I now close this meeting of Parliament.